Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to JK'z Rewatchable Hour presents The Walking Dead Files. Tonight's episode, I'm gonna talk about um one of the one of the crossover shows. Right, it's not a crossover, but I wanted to talk about it's called Walking Dead World Beyond. I didn't know about this. I started watching and I got interested in the Talking Dead and they talked about it. It was a short series. It was only going to be 2 seasons long, and I wanted to watch it because it was talking about mainly because it was about the CRM, which is the helicopters that you see in Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead. Um, and I thought, well, maybe they're the people that Jadis took Rick to, and they carried him off in the helicopter there. So I thought maybe I'll figure out about Rick. And I also thought maybe it'll talk about Heath when Heath and Tara were off they had an RV and they were out looking for stuff, trying to get different things. When she got back, the RV was gone, but you never saw Heath again. So it's not like he just drove away unless he decided not to go to Alexandria. Um, Instead, I later you see Jadis driving an RV, kind of similar to the one that Heath and Tara had. So maybe she got him and she took him to the CRM. So I thought maybe I would get something out of that. And then after watching for a little while, I kind of had another purpose into watching it. Um, they start out in Omaha, Nebraska, and they find out, I'll explain the characters in a minute, but they find out that another character, their father, is actually at a CRM facility because he was like a scientist and whatnot. So they were using his brain. I guess in a way they were kind of trying to either modify or maybe come up with a solution for the zombies, is what everybody was thinking anyway. Um, so, but it turns out where they had him was Ithaca, New York. That's about 20 miles from where I live. So that was interesting to me. So now, like I said, this starts about 10 years after the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, it starts, I think it's 10 years in. The story is around the Bennett family. Iris and Hope Bennett are sisters in Omaha. Originally, their father, Leopold Bennett, was in Omaha with them. That's when they pulled him and took him to another facility with no contact. But they found a way through computers or something to communicate, and that's how they found him. Now, um, one of the sisters is more um she's good in school and she's part of the junior leadership and whatnot, and the other is kind of a wild child. She likes to have fun and do things, but she's smart and she uses her smarts are in a different way. She made a way to make alcohol for her and her other teenage friends. Once they figure out where where their father is, the two girls plan to go. They're like, we're going. Um, and they take along with them a couple other kids, kind of also misfits and whatnot, Silas and Alton, and they go with them, and the four of them set out. Now, the first part that got to me was you find out that the CRM are not good people. Not long after the four of them leave, they literally destroy the Omaha. They bomb or they do something that they break the gates and everything, and all these people are trapped in there with walkers coming in. But the problem is they've been inside for 10 years. They have no idea how to fight the walkers. But before they do that, Felix, who is a family friend, and Huck, she came to the place and she worked her way up, but we don't really know who she is at this point. But they go after the kids before the place is destroyed. And they catch up to the kids eventually. Now, the whole way seems kind of easy. And I kind of question that. I'm like, we've seen Rick and his group, great fighters, have trouble. And for the most part, these kids don't seem to have any problems. Now I know that wasn't like that isn't the main purpose of the show is troubles they might have along the way, but you would think that they would run into them. I believe the CRM made sure they had a clear path, kind of. And you'll understand why later on. So later they realize that Huck is a part of the CRM, more so as because they were just like a satellite place, they weren't really part of the CRM in Omaha. So they drive a good portion of the way and they run into troubles here and there, but for the most part, they don't. When they arrive in Ithaca, which I didn't really recognize anything that they showed. I was expecting because I figured it was at one of the colleges is what it looked like. Because Cornell University is in Ithaca, which is an Ivy League, and they do a lot of veterinary and stuff like that. So I thought maybe, but I didn't really recognize anything. So it could have been anywhere that they filmed it. So we end up seeing JK'z there, and JK'z originated as as the leader of the scavengers on The Walking Dead. And she is the one that was trading people for supplies through the CRM. And when she got a good enough one, she was promised to go away with them. And she finally did with Rick. And they took her with Rick. They wanted to heal Rick. And then they wanted, she was able to join. And she became part of their army, militia, whatever. But the whole time they're there, I don't see Rick. I don't hear anything about Heath. Was kind of disappointing in that aspect. But they meet their father and they get to work in a little bit with the father. But the two boys, Silas and Alton, get kind of separated at one point. And they go elsewhere and I think Silas actually hooks up with a guy who he works for the CRM, but all he does is bring in the dead. But he has to bring them in, not like he can't kill them. You're not supposed to kill them. And they have to be, I think, a certain like recently dead, not dead that long or something like that. Because they're doing research on them. We find out that Huck's mother runs the Ithaca facility and is one of the highest people in the CRM completely. So she kind of put her into the situation so that way, because they had been looking. Now, the thing is, they weren't looking at the book smart daughter. They were looking at the daughter who created these things, like how to make alcohol, stuff like that. She was technical, more, like mechanical, more technical. So she was able to make things, and they're like, that's an asset. That's the asset we want. I'm actually making this short because the series overall I didn't like. I didn't learn a lot. I learned that, like I said, I learned Jadis used Rick to get to the CRM and have an easy life for the most part. She had to do their bidding, um but yeah, things like that. I didn't like the series. I didn't find out, like I said, I didn't come up and get any of my questions answered, except we ran in, we saw Jadis. But like I said, I didn't know anything about Heath, still don't. Haven't seen him. He hasn't been in any of the other shows. And now Rick, we find out later on what happens to him. We find out that in The Ones That Live, The Walking Dead, The Ones That Live, which I'll talk about a lot later. Now, in the regular Walking Dead, we didn't learn a whole lot about the CRM. We saw the helicopter. Now, we saw the helicopter early on when Rick was in Atlanta, but I don't think that was CRM. I don't know what that was. Not sure if that was still just a military or whatnot. But later, during the Negan Wars, a helicopter does fly over. And there's a couple other times you see the helicopter. And then you see Jadis and Rick in the helicopter. That's all you really know. And I don't even know if I knew CRM at that point, but I knew the symbol. In Fear the Walking Dead, we actually meet somebody from the CRM. Al and her have a thing, and at one point Al is caught by her, and then later she lets her go. She gets her fuel, she gets fueled up, she takes off in the helicopter. That's it. So that's pretty much it. But at the end, the Ithaca place is basically falling apart. I think it was caused by the father and the kids, and they just wanted out. And they ended up leaving with some of the CRM people, but the one girl, not the one that's the technical one, she goes off. No, she stays with her father. They're going to do research. They're going to go to another place and do research. And the other daughter um and a couple others meet up with a group of like refugees or whatnot. I don't know if you call them refugees. They meet up with them, and that's kind of how the series ends. So it was kind of nothing really came out of it. I just learned basically that the CRM, even though ultimately they wanted to, I don't know if they wanted to come up with a cure, they wanted to modify the walkers or whatever. They were just they were out for themselves. It wasn't a good scenario. Only part, like I said, the biggest thing that got me was how easy it was. And that you didn't see CRM people clearing the way, or you didn't see walkers just laying all over the place. That's a long way to go. I mean, that's farther. I mean, we saw how hard it was once the cars, the vehicles, they kind of ran out of them. They couldn't keep finding good ones. from Atlanta to Washington, they were having a hard time. Rick's group, a really strong group, and yet kids and two adults, okay, they're teenagers and young adults, two young adults, go from Omaha, Nebraska to Ithaca. That's a really long way. I drove from Texas to New York, and we're talking that's like 20 hours, 20 some hours. It's more than 20 hours. It's actually like it's probably 20 hours, 24 hours maybe. That's a long drive. And they're walking most of the way. They did get a truck later on, which was kind of weird that they had a truck and always knew where to find gas, but that's why. Um, so basically, I watched it pretty much, and the only thing I learned was the CRM, that the CRM was not out for everyone, only certain people. Um, and they used people for what assets they had. And when they weren't useful anymore, which they determined Omaha was not useful, they destroyed it. So that's what I took from that. I don't want to continue because I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I knew this episode was going to be a short one. Because I didn't, like I said, I didn't get a whole lot out of the show, minus how bad the CRM is. So with that being said, very short show today. Um, I wanna leave on that note, and then next time I'm gonna go into The Walking Dead a little bit, the regular show, before I get into a couple of the other. I don't want to go into the spin-off shows that take place after The Walking Dead, but there's a couple others that happen during, and one that takes place almost at the same time. Um, thank you for watching. This has been JK's Rewatchable Hour presents The Walking Dead Files, and we'll see you next time.